get your life back to normal. Lonnie with Restore It Restoration.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Service Guys podcast. I'm the producer, Ruel Abadam, and we have the service professional, the ultimate service professional, Lonnie Beecham, on the other line. And today is a very, very special episode with our good friend, Vinnie Tortorich. Lonnie, take it away, please.
Welcome, Vinnie. I actually wrote down a few things for you because I just know you as Vinnie. But welcome to our show. This is Ruel and I's attempt at being famous like you. So just for our listeners that don't know who Vinnie Tortorich is yet, he is the owner of Pure Vitamin Club, the owner of Pure Coffee Club. He's a motivational speaker. He's written the best-selling book, Fitness Confidential. He's also an endurance athlete, a stepfather, and the coolest thing, married to a Bond girl. So welcome, Vinnie. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. And, it's funny that no matter where I go or what I do, whenever I get introduced, people that he did this and he did that, and he wrote a book, and he's married to a Bond girl. And I'm like, wow.
Well, that's the only reason why we talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always wonder what it's like to be Serena's sisters because, she's the Bond girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they're actresses of their own right. They have their own claim to fame.
Bond girl. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So, Vinnie, before we start talking, tell everybody, how did we meet? It's been 6-7 years ago, hasn't it?
It's been a long time, Lonnie, and I have no idea. I know we met through the internet. I just like you, I was in the service industry my entire life. By and large, servicing Hollywood, servicing the Hollywood types. And then at some point I wrote a book, and the long story is I wrote a book, and then after the book, I figured out I had to do something online so that people can know who I am, and so on and so forth. And next thing you know, I started a podcast and some kind of online. I became somewhat known online, which is crazy to me because I don't know how to really turn on a computer. And then from there, Facebook with my name on it, a Facebook group started, and you came in shortly after that. And back then, I used to monitor that group a lot more because the group was a lot smaller, and you kind of knew the people and all the players and whatnot. And there were certain people. Some people were pains in the butt, and other people were just kind of good, interesting dudes. And you fell under that kind of good, interesting dude banner. Am I saying it? I mean, I have no other way. And when someone says, "How do you know Lonnie?" Because since then, let me just add to that. Since then, you and I have become real friends. Like we've met in person at least once, if not, 2 or 3 times.
Well, twice. 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's funny how, the internet brings people together, so to speak, in a weird sort of way.
Well, now I need to add to your list of credentials. You are a matchmaker now. We got people getting married based off of your group, and we got people in a singles group that are making love connections. And so you do a lot more work than you take credit for. So
well, I don't deserve the credit because I'm not doing any of that work. Like I said, the Facebook group it's called Vinnie Tortorich's NSNG group. What's it called, Lonnie? What's the original group called?
It's called Vinnie Tortorich's No Sugar, No Grains.
Yeah, and
based off of your best podcast, the top hit podcast, Fitness Confidential. And and I remember pinging you back in the day when the group was small and when you were able to take messages. And I don't know, something. My brother was in Donaldson, your hometown, and I don't know how. Just somehow from there, just kind of took off.
Yeah, it did. And it's funny how it all goes down because I'll never forget at the beginning, most people know this online because of the Adam Carolla show, but one of my close friends in the world, I'm going to drop a name here, is Howie Mandel. And I remember Howie would say to me, because Howie is online all the time on Twitter and the whole thing. And I kind of learned that from him, that you have to actually communicate with your audience online, right? And I learned that from him. But he did say to me at one time, he goes, wait a minute, you actually speak to all of them? And I went, yeah, because Howie, I'm not, you have millions of people. I just have tens of people. I don't have tens of millions. I just have tens. So I was able to kind of talk to almost everybody at first and kind of give you guys free advice. And that's how I got to know so many of you guys.
Yeah, we have so many different facets to talk to you about. And I actually forgot, and I owe you an apology. I forgot to tell you, you're now hitting the ranks as a documentarian. It hasn't been released yet, but now you're a movie producer. So I apologize. I forgot to mention that. That's been a big thing for the last last year, hasn't it?
Yeah, don't apologize, because I'm, I'm loath to add movie producer to my name, because I think that should be saved for the people who actually produce movies. I'm producing a movie. It's not what I do for a living, and I doubt I will make a lot of money on it, although I do think a lot of people will see it. The fans of the podcast, the Fitness Confidential podcast, and fans of the book really came together. And if you hear walking around, my dog Stella just came into the room. It came together in Indiegogo, and I think it's like somewhere around $200,000 that they've given us to produce this documentary. And nice. I couldn't be happier if I tried. It's I'm looking forward to it. It's we've shot the whole thing. Me and director Peter Pardini, we shot the whole thing in 2 segments in 6 days of shooting, which when you talk to anyone in Hollywood, when we tell them the schedule that we're on, they think that we're crazy. They're saying it can't be done. My buddy, Adam Carolla, who's done countless documentaries, I think he's got 5 or 6 of them out. He said that the schedule we're on is just crazy, that it's unheard of. So thanks for even asking about it. The whole thing is shot. When I get off of the line here, I'm going straight back over to Peter's, and we edit that thing daily. And it takes, just to give you an idea, just to get 4 minutes of product, it takes us pretty much a week to, every 4 or 5 minutes. Sometimes in a week, we might get 6 minutes, like if there's something that is pieced together easier, in an easier fashion. But it is not easy, because we're doing a first-rate documentary. It's just not easy. So sorry I went on about that, but
no, the floor is yours. So, Vinnie, since I'm more of a service guy, and you have an extensive service background, your service is professional trainer. I forgot to mention that too. I know you too well, so it's like I forget too much, what you do. I just kind of know you as Vinnie Tortorich. Right. But you got started out as a model and ended up as a personal trainer. How did you get to be a personal trainer? I mean, usually I've heard you say people start out as a personal trainer to get to be a model, but you did it kind of backwards.
No. Actually, you got it right the second time. I was a trainer before trainers were a thing. I started training people in somewhere around 1982. I can't exactly put the year on it, because I was also working at the time as the assistant fitness coach at Tulane University. And then I got hired by Newman School. But around that time, I was also training some of the alumnus wives and this and that. And they didn't, the term trainer wasn't around then. In New Orleans, I was known as the Vinnie, the fitness guy. Vinnie will come over. He's the fitness guy. And all these ladies in Uptown New Orleans would hire me to come over and whip them into shape. And if you would have told me that this would have become a career in the early 80s, we're getting up on 40 years now, 36, 37 years. If you would have told me that this would have become a career, I would have said, no way, no how. So I did it there until 1990, and then I moved here to LA, somewhere between 90 and 91, and tried to do what I was doing in New Orleans here. Well, I was no longer the big fish in the small pond. I was a guppy in the ocean. So there was I didn't know anyone. I didn't know how to get my business rolling. Big box gyms were not exactly, around yet. They were kind of coming, but they did. Even the big box gyms didn't have trainers in them, and so on and so forth. So a friend of mine who's an actress, a recognizable actress, a woman named Alexandra Paul. She was on Baywatch. You might remember she played the Virgin in the Dragnet movie with Dan Aykroyd. She had somewhat of a career back then, and she kept saying to me, you really photograph well, because I never thought, and still today, I've never thought of myself as a good-looking guy, or a guy that women would go, oh my God, this is a good-looking guy. I've never looked. As a matter of fact, I don't like to look in a mirror. So she kept saying this, and she was like, yeah, you photograph well. And she sent me over to this agent to talk to this agent, and I said, look, I'm desperate. I'm not making money here. My friend thinks I can do this. I'm sorry I even walked in here. I'll leave now. And the woman was like, yeah, we will pay for photos. We think we could get you working by next week. And by the way, back then, the woman saw that I was very fit. Her name was Irina Kamal. She's no longer with us. And she said, would you mind taking your shirt off for me? And which was weird to me, so I did. And she went, yeah, we can have you working by next week. And I said, really? She goes, yeah, your abs alone, Hollywood will tear you. They will buy you up. You have the body for this. So it wasn't my face they were so much looking for, Lonnie. It was, I had, and I'll even say it now, I couldn't say it back then, but my abs were incredible back then.
But were they as incredible as your hands, though? Because you were also a hand model.
Ruel, you're absolutely right. I was more of a body parts model because my agent, that same agent, Irina Kamal, called me in one day, and she said, let me see your hands, because my hands are really big and masculine and not hairy like hairy knuckles, but just a light amount of hair on them and just big, strong hands, and they're very kind of manly and veiny and that kind of. I'm of peasant stock, if you will. And she goes, great. I have a job. I'm sending you those jobs, hand modeling. And I went, that's a thing. And she was like, yes, that's a thing. And they sent me out, and I did a job. It was for Philips Lighting, Philips Electric, or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. I know them well.
That was one of my first ones. And I did a bunch of them for different power tool companies. And I think DeWalt or one of those hammer, I was holding a hammer. So my hand worked as a model more than any other part of my body. And here's a little known, even less cared for fact. At the time, I had a client who was a big-time writer on the Jerry Seinfeld show. And I used to joke about my hand being a model.
Oh, no way. I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah, so that was so, because writers only take what they see around them. And I was explaining to this writer, I went, yeah, I just walked in one day and my agent was like, oh, yeah, that hand can work. And it's almost written exactly like that in the show. I said to my client after the show came out, I said, oh, my God, you did my story. And she goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, yeah, the hand model thing. We talk about it every Saturday when we go on the hike. And she goes, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, because writers can't admit, like, they have to make it their idea. So she can never admit that came from me. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm owed anything. I'm not. It was just us laughing and joking about my hand getting more work than my face.
And Vinnie, I've never asked you this, but we're talking $1990. I'm sure you got a fat check the first time for modeling your hands and stuff. What was that check like? I mean, what are we talking dollar-wise?
They were not a whole lot. You would get, like, if it's a print ad, I know people think models get $100,000 checks and all the blow they can do or something like that. That's the perception of that 80s and 90s model. But here's some truthful numbers. If it was a print ad, and most of the hand modeling was print ad, you would get, like, my day rate was $1,200, and then agency fee over the top. So $1,200 to me before taxes is and then the agents would get. So you add 20% to that. So it's $50. I was about $1,500 a day. But if it's a hand modeling thing, they would cut you loose after 3 or 4 hours. So it was $1,200 for 3 or 4 hours of work. It was kind of the same thing for print ads, for catalogs, and the same thing. Somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200 day rate. So, when you think about it, it's not a whole lot. And then when you did infomercials, they would do a buyout contract. So it would be like $2,500 or 30, as much as $3,500 for infomercials or non-SAG commercials if you were in a video. But the cool thing about that is the day is only an 8-hour day. So let's say your rate is $2,500 for 8 hours. So then you take $2,500 and divide it by 8. So that's your hourly rate. If they go to 9 hours, now you're getting time and a half on that hour. If they go 10 hours, you're still getting time and a half. And then if they go into the 11th hour, now you're getting double. And they would usually shoot those things until they were done. So those could be 16 or 18 or 20-hour days. And so instead of the $2,500 or $3,500 you might have made, sometimes you made double that.
No kidding.
Yeah, and the way anyone ever made money is if you got, like, a national TV ad, and
you had a Ford.
Yeah, I was in a Ford commercial, but you didn't see my face, so that's a buyout. But like Serena did a Ford commercial where her face is in it, and she was already on, she was on TV, and she probably got a check for $50,000 for that, and then you get a residual check the whole time it's running. So she could have made $150,000 in that one ad, and that's the difference between residual ads. The big national ads like Coca-Cola or Dos Equis or any of the Coors or any of that. You got paid good money for that for about a year if you did those.
Gotcha. So how'd you get into the personal trainer business?
Here in LA?
Yeah.
It was different. Yeah, it came through modeling. I was making just enough money to live here. As a matter of fact, I was doing better than that. I was happy that money was coming in, but for God's sake, I was in my 30s and I knew it wouldn't hold out. The hand modeling kept me going. The abs, kept me going, but I knew it wouldn't hold out, and I was trying to beg, borrow, and steal to train anyone I could. And I ended up training a woman, and I always described her as being wider than she was tall. She was like a mid-exec, like a VP at Playboy. And I took, I want to say 150 pounds, maybe 170 pounds off of her inside of like a year, but the first 6 months it was like 100 pounds, and everybody, everybody's like, "Oh my God," her name was Dana. Dana, how are you doing this? And she's like, "This guy Vinny, he tells me what to eat, he tells me what to do," and so on and so forth. And that's how that started. It started at Playboy, and before long, I was doing a couple of the other, execs at Playboy. And then they connected me to a couple of the different Playmates who they thought, was, because once you do a centerfold for Playboy, they have you under contract for like 2 years. And
that long?
Yeah. Those girls, like when it's go, hey, come on out to Cinco de Mayo and you meet the Playboy Playmates. Usually those girls are under contract. It could be a year. I think it's 2 years. I don't really remember what it was back then. But they wanted those girls to be in shape. And if a girl started gaining a little weight, I became the, Johnny on the spot more than anything else,
And from there, that's when you transferred over to the Hollywood actresses then, right?
Yeah. The first, I actually kind of told the first big story in my book, Fitness Confidential. It kind of opens up with me sitting in this office of this, maybe the hugest manager at the time in Hollywood. The guy had everybody from Roseanne and Tom Arnold to Michael Jackson, Dolly Parton. The biggest names in Hollywood was with this management firm. And my friend who used to work, one of my friends who used to work at Playboy was now working at this company as a baby manager. They call them baby agents and baby managers. And as I said, they put them in their back pocket and feed them on farts until they're old enough to eat shit. And this woman worked over there as a baby manager, and they were trying to bring sitcoms were the big thing still in the 90s, right? Sitcoms were making bazillions of dollars. And they figured out that you could take comedians off the road and put them in a sitcom, and like Tim Allen, he was doing the ruh, 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 ruh. They made that a sitcom. Roseanne Barr, she was the domestic goddess. They made her a sitcom. You name it. Jeff Foxworthy had a sitcom. They all started getting sitcoms based on what was in their act, because Hollywood is lazy. And there was this woman that was doing really well on the road, and they wanted to make it the first Asian sitcom. And her name is Margaret Cho. And they wanted to bring Margaret on and make her like the Asian Lucille Ball. And they thought that she was too big for camera. And it wasn't really her body, because Roseanne was heavy set and she was on camera.
Sure.
But that her face was too round and too big. It didn't play well on camera. So this baby Asian said, well, I know the guy that keeps all the Playmates in shape. And they were like, you do? And she was like, oh yeah, this guy is a genius. And I watched him take 150 pounds off of Dana. And they went, Dana Henniger, you know that guy? And she's like, yeah, I can call him right now. And she called me, and the next day I'm sitting in the office, and I talked about it in Fitness Confidential. They're looking at me like I'm some kind of god with some kind of super duper answer, and I can help them out. That was all they knew, nothing else. And that was the beginning of it. I took a lot of weight off of Margaret Cho, I think 60 pounds total. And, next thing you know, she's on the lips. My name is on David Letterman's lips and Jay Leno's lips. And at the time, they had the guy, the dog pound, Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah.
And who is this Vinnie guy around Hollywood? And, every agent in town would watch those three shows, and they would get to the office the next day with my name jotted down, and they would tell their secretary, get this guy on the line right now. I as they call it in Hollywood, I got sexy in Hollywood as a trainer. And at that point, I was able to just throw out any number I wanted, and I got it. I know this all sounds nonsensical and braggadocio and the whole thing, but it's what happened. That's all it is. It's what happened.
So then once you started getting your name mentioned by Letterman and those big players, then next thing you know, the movie actresses that we would all know. And for the listeners that aren't familiar with Vinnie, he has always prided himself on not naming names. He'll only name names that are public knowledge, like Howie Mandel, and then you've said Brad Garrett in the past, and you name drop like nobody's business. But so Vinnie was always the guy that kept his mouth shut and didn't say what he knew. So next thing you know, I guess that endeared you to the celebrities whenever they knew you weren't going to be the source close to. You've always said that it's always the masseuse or the trainer. Whenever all the scandal breaks loose, it's always a source close to, and it's always somebody like you or the masseuse that comes by. And I guess that was endearing to them. After a while, they learned they could trust you not to say anything.
Yeah, look, there was a group of us. Once you kind of get on that inside, a lot of the bigger celebrities all have personal assistants. And that's a very heady job in California, right? So if you're the showrunner for Friends, right? The showrunner is the biggest guy. He's the guy who created Friends. If you're training him and he's got a personal assistant, his personal assistant knows Spielberg's personal assistant, and they know Tom Cruise's personal assistant. They're all in contact with each other. It's a network like you wouldn't believe. And once
I can only imagine.
It's crazy. Once you're on that inside and you're one of the go-to names, once you're on their little secret list, then you're golden. The question that everyone wants to know is, how do you get on that secret list? And the answer I always give is, you just do good work. I didn't know those lists existed. I didn't know how to get into Playboy. All I did was I got a woman in shape. A woman who, as I put it, wider than she was tall. And that worked in my favor to get the next person, the next person. I never thought about going after celebrities. I wouldn't have known how. I just did good work. And then once your name gets to the right people, then once those assistants, because assistants want their job to be easy. My boss wants a trainer today. Okay, let me call 3 other assistants and see which name pops up. And if your name keeps popping up, you're the guy who gets the job, right?
Right. So since this is kind of a service podcast, what's it like as a day-to-day, as a personal? I mean, we're going back to the 90s and early 2000s, and I know you still have a few clients now, but what's it kind of like in the day-to-day life as a personal trainer? I envision you show up and somebody lets you in and you go meet them in their home gym and you just count backwards from 10. But I know there's a lot more to it than that. What goes on behind the scenes in the training world?
No, I would like to say that you pretty much described it. The head, look, that's it. You show up, you're on time, you do your job, you leave. The headache jobs are when you're trying to schedule, like when you do get that phone call that, okay, let me back up. You make a lot of money off of not the actors, but the wives or the husbands of the producers, right? That's your bread and butter. That's, they want to go to a party and go, do you know who else he trains? You're just like everything else they buy, right? But they're paying you a ton of money. But they know that if you get a call from one of your big actors and they say something, I'm going to just make up something. Hey man, I'm going to be in the movie 300. I need to bulk up and I got 6 weeks. And I'll say, okay, look, I'm going to have to cut out 4 of my clients. So this is going to cost $50,000. or $40,000 or whatever it is, because I'm cutting out this amount of work.
Sure. Same thing in my world. If you need a specialty trade system and I got to, blow off my regulars, you're paying for it. My day rate is what it is. And
Right.
If you need my day, every day, all day, every day, dedicated for a week, here's my day rate. Here's what it's going to cost you.
Yeah. And, it's not, people go, oh, you're that heady. It's like, no, it's just business. And they don't mind because, most of the guys that would call me for that 6 weeks, they're making millions of dollars on the movie and they get to write off whatever number I throw at them. So they're like, I don't care that, that much would be going to the government anyway. I might as well do this. And at the end of the day, my body will look a certain way and so on and so forth. So it's all just a business move. None of it is, but that's the headache is I got to cut this one out. I got to cut that one out. And then I have to go get those people back after 6 weeks. It's really that's the tough part of the job. The other thing is Hollywood started moving out of Beverly Hills and Brentwood at some point, somewhere around 1996. They all started going to this little enclave called Calabasas, which is where I live now.
Right.
So a lot of the clients started moving out to Hidden Hills and Calabasas and that whole thing. But so a lot of the trainers didn't want to come out here because they're like, man, it takes, with the traffic and everything, it could take an hour to get there. And none of the trainers wanted to come here. And I was one of the guys who said, hell, I'll go if I can do 3 people while I'm there. And those trainers said, man, you're crazy. That's the drive time alone. And what if you get stuck in traffic? And, I used to ride motorcycles back then. So whenever it was time for me to get on the freeway or to come across Topanga Canyon to get to Calabasas, I would just hop on the motorcycle. And the motorcycle I had 2 of them, were usually left strategically at my clients' homes, right? I would say, hey, can I leave this motorcycle here? And I'll come pick up my car tonight when I'm done. And the reason motorcycles in LA, you're able to do what's called splitting lanes. So Calabasas.
And that freaked me out the first time I ever saw that. Coming out there to meet you, I was like, what is this idiot doing riding down the zipper of the highway?
Right. It looks like
me out.
It's a suicide trap. And but you get good at it after a while. And it didn't take me an hour or an hour and a half to get to Calabasas. It took me 15 or 20 minutes because I would just zip through the traffic. And look, I was taking a chance in my life. As you saw, people get killed in that zipper situation every day. But I made it through. It was years of doing that. But that's how I ended up falling in love with being out here versus on the West Side. And I actually ended up getting more clients out here, than over there at some point.
Because you were willing to drive. I was
willing to risk my life, basically, So, yeah, that's what happened.
So I got a question I've never thought about with you. So I'm in the phase of my business where I'm meeting with my insurance company to renew my general liability and pollution control liability, Bailey's insurance. I got more insurance than you can imagine. As a personal trainer, do you have to have any liability insurance?
Yeah, some of these companies came up with it. Look, if someone's going to sue you, they're going to sue you. And if these contracts that this company called IDEA, which is one of those companies that also they will give you a certification that means nothing or whatever. They would have insurance, and on occasions when I would have to train someone at a gym, that gym would make me go and get one of those insurances, and they were really cheap. It was like a couple $100 for a year or something. It gave you up to $2 million coverage or some. And when you read it, you realize that it really didn't do anything. It just indemnified the gym that you were in.
Basically, yeah.
Help you. So I would get that whenever, but I didn't train very many people in those gyms. but I would have them during those years. I would also get everyone to sign a contract saying that, physical exertion is and heart attacks and can happen and and if they didn't sign it, they found a new trainer. I never really had a whole lot of trouble getting anyone to sign it because if they wanted to work with me, they were going to sign it, And by the way, that doesn't do a whole lot for you either.
Oh, right. I got a situation with my own personal attorney that I keep on retainer. He's a slow pay, let's say, and it's kind of like, how do you sue your own attorney for money that's already been, services already rendered? And it's a deal. It's just the cost of doing business. People don't realize in business, even personal training, that's a business. I mean, people hear big, oh, you collect this check. Oh, you're making money. No, I pay, just $1,000 a month just to have all my insurances. I mean, at a minimum. And then some of mine is based on revenue and some of it's based on, like Vinny, you may not know this, but if you had a fire in your house there, everything you own would come to my shop. Well, that's a special kind of policy. It's not covered under your homeowner's insurance. It's not covered under renter's insurance. It's covered under Bailey's insurance. So based on the approximate value of everything you own, then I call my agent and say, Kelly, I'm about to bring in, $300,000 worth of possessions. And then I have to pay a rate based on that. People don't realize the business logistics that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see when you hire a guy like you or a guy like me, but there's a lot that goes into it, not to mention Uncle Sam and your state and payroll and all this other stuff. It's, that's the stuff I geek out on.
It was interesting because, you have a lot more moving parts than I do. You have equipment and people working for you and so on and so forth. When you're a trainer, you're just a simple, Class C or S corporation or whatever you decide to do. And the biggest expense, because when you're a trainer, like they would allow me to write off one vehicle, and I would buy a truck with a diesel engine because those things would last several 100,000 miles. And I was driving, better part of 40,000 miles per year. But then when you try to explain to them, look, I use my motorcycles for work, my tax guy would go, look, I can't do that. They will flag that. You can't, motorcycles are toys. I mean, you can't, would you like to use your motorcycle as your write-off or your truck? It's like, well, the truck is a bigger write-off. So, and you can write off gas, but then they even say, how much gas did you, well, you got to keep different receipts and the whole thing. For me, it wasn't a lot of anything other than trying to figure out how not to give all my money to the government at the end of the year. And there was no way to do that. It was, well, you don't get to write off anything, and I'm like, I went skiing with a client and I bought their ticket. Can I write that off? And my guy would go, yeah, but you got to prove it. Well, we could call my client. And then I would just sit there and go, I don't want them to call a celebrity. I don't want the celebrity to go, why is the government calling me?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was my biggest, when I was doing that, the biggest expense was, how do I keep any of it and try to save it? And that was never easy to do,
That's the thing I pay dearly for is that accountant's advice. He does my books. I don't even do my own books. He just, he'll look at my income and he's like, oh, you just took in a big check. You probably need to spend, $17,000 on equipment. And it's like, well, I don't really need $17,000 of equipment, but I'd rather have it than give it to Uncle Sam. I hate writing that check. And I just found out my tax bill for the year is like, holy crap. I just found out today. It's like, oh, it hurts. Hurts bad.
I just paid, because the 15th is coming up. And, because of the businesses now and the way it is and the whole thing. And, with the vitamin company and the coffee company and the book still makes money and all that. the check I wrote was, for me, was staggering. I was like, this is a staggering amount of money that, man, if I could just put just this amount away every year, I can retire in a few years, and
Exactly.
It's staggering. And, I think every guy who owns a business feels the same way, because we employ people over at Pure Coffee Club, Pure Vitamin Club, right? Why does, and
Sure.
we get to write off some of that. But why doesn't the government give guys like me a bigger buy round? Just go, okay, look, you're employing people and you're paying out and you're one of the people keeping the economy afloat, and when you think about all the people that are subsequently employed by me, people that roast the coffee for me and people who packages it and the Pick, Pack, and Ship America people and all this stuff, all of those people, I'm not their only job, but I'm keeping a lot of people, I'm keeping a lot of food on a lot of tables. How about, that's why I hate when people go, big business, and they pay and they don't pay their fair share. And I'm sitting there going, how do I get to that level? Because I don't want to pay my fair share either.
Yeah, right. I agree. People,
I'm sure I never will.
Start breaking. Yeah, you start looking at the dollars, and it starts getting depressing. I get depressed every time I talk to my accountant because you're penalized if you do show a profit, and then you're I haven't had a tax refund in I can't tell you when. I just write checks, and it gets depressing. And then you start, like you were saying, it's rewarding knowing that you're. I take care of 7 families in my little small business, and then you get a big check. I get big lumps. I get paid in lumps, so I can, and that lump has to last me. And then you start breaking it down. You start owing so much, so much for insurance, so much for payroll taxes, so much for just rent and lights and utilities and water. Before too long, it feels like I'm getting squeezed. Everybody has their hand in my pocket, and then donations and giving stuff away and, doing charitable causes. And, that does cost me money. I don't mind doing it. I love helping people. That's why I'm in a service business. But at the end of the day, it's like I try to live on 20% of what I make, and that's what I try to do. Doesn't always work, but here we are.
Look, we all try to do that. But by the way, when you said that, when you were talking about tax refunds, I have sitting in my hand from 3 years ago. Of course, it's void now because it says void this check after 1 year. I've gotten exactly one tax refund. I've been paying into the government since I was 18 years old. I've never gotten a tax refund, but 3 years ago I got one from the government, and I was so happy to get this check that I decided never to cash it. And you would say, you're crazy, Vin. The government owes you that money. Why don't you cash? Are you that rich that you can go without cashing a government check? Whoa, Mr. Rich Guy. The check that the government sent me back because I overpaid them. Now remember, I'm 56 now, and I started paying in when I was 18. The government finally felt that they owed me some money back. It was $2.41.
Ooh, that's not even enough for
right
Starbucks.
Here, you hear it. That's the check. It's right here in my hand. I keep it on my desk because whenever I'm having a rough day, I look at that check and I get a big smile on my face.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, Vinnie, we've covered a lot of ground, mostly on your personal training business, but you have a lot of businesses. I mean, what's the best advice you've ever been given for business?
I don't have any. When it comes to business, I don't have many mentors. There was a guy, I used to live in his guest house when I lived in New Orleans, and he was a self-made millionaire. And he and I are still friends, but he's never given me much business advice. But I just watched him a lot and how he did things. And, whenever I go spend time with he and his wife up in Aspen, I would listen when he was on the phone and how he talked to people and how he conducted business. And I'd like to say, I'll tell you the guy's name is Jimmy Reese. He meant a lot to me. And we were talking about that recently. He was telling me how proud he was of me and, how I became a self-starter when I was young. It took me a long time to kind of get there, but I'm slowly getting there. He was one. The other guy was a guy who helped Converse tennis shoes become what it was back in the day. He signed Dr. J to the first big contract. He also signed Larry Bird to a contract and also Magic Johnson. His name was Joe Dean. He died a few years ago. He was a real mentor to me. And I even wrote his advice to me in my book, Fitness Confidential. I call it Taking Out the Garbage. Joe said to me one day, and this was all in relationship to athletics, because he was somewhat of the guy was a mentor to me in athletics. And we were talking about doing things when no one was looking. It's like anyone can do well when the cameras are rolling and the crowd is cheering, but it's doing all the stuff when no one's looking. And I must have been around 13, 14 years old at the time. I can't really remember. And he said, Vinnie, when you're at home, you guys have one of those garbage cans under the kitchen sink? And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Dean, we do. And he said, you ever open up that cabinet and you want to put, say, a Coke can or something in there, and the garbage can is teeming with garbage, and you see that it needs to be empty, but you take that Coke can and kind of squish it right there, teeter it right on top. You ever do that and close the door and make it someone else's problem? And I got real sheepish, and I said, Mr. Dean, I do that all the time.
We all do.
Say again, Lonnie?
I said we have all done that at some point.
Yeah, it's just a common thing to do. I said, Mr. Dean, I do that all the time. And he goes, next time you see the garbage can is full and you want to put a Coke can on top, just take it out. Just take it out. Don't ask for accolades from your mother or father. Don't say, hey, look what I just did. Just take it out. Don't make it someone else's situation. Just do it. Just go do that. And he said, and do that with everything you do in your life. And that was his words to me. He's no longer with us. And he is probably my greatest mentor. And I take the garbage out every day in 1,000 different ways. I don't wait until someone else says, do this or do that, or you got to get this done. I've just done it. And I got to be honest with you, I've become so much successful in life, and I do attribute most all of that to taking the garbage out.
Doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Yeah, just do what it takes to get the job done. Don't ask for accolades. Just do it, as Nike would say.
Just do it. You would go there, wouldn't you? So
yeah.
Nike's a hot one right now. Yeah.
And look, I mean, I'm no fan of Nike, or I don't hate Nike. I'm indifferent about Nike. I've never bought their running shoes. I've never found them to be any better than any other running shoes. But when you look at what they did, whether you love them or hate them, they made billions of dollars on that move.
Yeah, well, people are talking about them.
Yeah, you look at that and go, okay, love them or hate them, I need to take a lesson from what these people are doing, whether that lesson is positive or negative.
And Vinnie, you've never actually held a real job, or I say a real job. I mean, you've never drawn a W-2. You've always been paid 1099.
Right.
With all the facets of your business, I mean, you as Vinnie Tortorich, the brand, you are a coffee person. I love that honey process, by the way. That is phenomenal. You own a wonderful supplement company. The listeners that aren't familiar, Pure Vitamin Club is the single best products out there. No junk, no fillers, no titanium dioxide. I've already had your business partner, Andy Schreiber, on. And, we've talked in great details about all your problems in the UK, and we talked about the supplements there. And, and you're also, an author, and,
I think I heard Andy in the background. Hi, Andy.
Is Andy in the background?
No, he's not.
But with everything that you do, you have a world-renowned, successful podcast that's, shrinking the world. You and I, we can walk into just about any city. We can make a post and have 50 instant friends show up, and we've never met in person, but we've all met online, and we just talk like we know each other. So this is a long-winded answer or a question, but what is, out of all the facets that you do, what is the one thing that you wish people would appreciate about, your personal training business? What everything that you do, what's the one thing that you wish more people understood or appreciated what you do to make their lives better?
Well, I'm going to have to go with the one thing I truly enjoy doing. I do these consults, and you know about them, Lonnie. I think you've done one. And
yeah, I've paid for a few. You've done me and my wife, and
yeah, and it's my accountant. Speaking of accountants, he said to me several times. He goes, "Well, you do several of these every day." And I said, yeah. And he goes, you realize it's not, what's the term he uses? He goes, that's opportunity cost, which I don't really know what that means. I said, well, what does that mean? He goes, your time is spent better doing other things. Why are you talking to these people? And I explained to him, and by the way, I've had this conversation with my accountant and other businessmen a lot. They'll say opportunity costs, and you're losing money, and why did you even talk to these people? Who cares? And I always explain to them, I care. That's who cares. I care because I don't get to train that many people anymore at all. I have one rock star that I still see, and they mostly stay on the road most of the year. So really, I don't see him anymore. And I have a rap star. And again, for these guys to make money nowadays, they have to be on the road. So I still give them, they're basically on the phone with me. I don't have to go train them anymore. But I still fashion myself, a trainer, a guy who helps people. And doing these phone calls are really the only way I can be in touch with people. Those phone calls actually drive the podcast. When I hear one thing over and over in the phone call, it will come out on the Monday show or on the Friday show or even the Wednesday show.
Sure.
Sometimes these phone calls, I like the conversation so much, I invite those people on the Saturday show. It really is my only ticket nowadays to being in touch with people. The sad thing about me is I've created a very lonely life for myself. Where I'm not in physical contact with other human beings. We don't even let me go to the office. Andy handles the office. And the reason for that is, I don't, the joke around me is they call me Gran Torino because I don't know how to interact with other people. And, I love Dylan and I love Andreas, but in 5 minutes, they would have OSHA on my ass, or whichever group comes after you saying the wrong thing. So we figured out it's best to keep me out of, my own office. And by the way, those guys love me. I take them to baseball games and the whole thing, and we have a drink at the game. And they look at me and go, he's not so bad. And I'm like, yeah, because you're not dealing with me on day to day,
Day to day, right.
So I filter through Andy, who's just an angel and one of the smartest guys I know. But yeah, I get to talk to people on the phone, and that's my favorite thing. They allow me to do that still. My handlers haven't stopped that yet. But yeah, I get off the phone here, and I'm doing 3 of them this afternoon. I'm a guy named Jason, a guy named Justin, and a woman named Anna. Yeah, so I'm doing 3 of them back to back this afternoon, and I couldn't be happier, because I get to talk to people, I get to give them advice, I get to see what makes them tick, and so on and so forth. And if that sounds mushy and bullshitty, I don't care. My accountant has been on me about raising the prices. He's like, you're not charging these people anything for this. Well, what do you think, Lonnie or Ruel over there? I charge people, I think it's $100. How much do I charge people? I don't even know what I charge them.
I don't remember.
I'm going to go look on my own site. I don't know what people pay. It's not like I actually see the money. It all goes into some big account.
I'll go pull it up.
Yeah, pull it. I don't even know how to pull up my own thing.
Would you like some help reaching your goals? Click here to schedule a call with Vinnie. Phone consultation.
Oh, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, okay, it's $115 for a half an hour and $195 for an hour. And, my accountant has said to me, he goes, when you think about it, half of that goes to Uncle Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then that's a half an hour where you're not doing your other work, and there's, and he goes, what ends up in your pocket is close to zero. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, because I love doing it. And he said, can you tack 25% onto this? I don't. To me, I don't know what it's worth for people. So I've always just kept it at those. Can you guys give me some insight? Do you know?
Your guy's gonna poop a keto brick once he finds out about the lanyard aspect of how you consult.
I never even bring that up to him. But he's like, if I said, look, my consults are 30 minutes, but the 30-minute goes usually 40 or 45, and the hour usually goes an hour and 10. He would really, he would shit a brick,
But you asked for input. Your business philosophy with Pure Vitamin and Pure Coffee Club is you want to put out a Rolls Royce product for a Toyota price. That's what's keeping people endeared to you, because $115 for a half hour is doable. $195 is doable for most people. Most people get the most, they get good benefit just in the half hour. And I think that's very attainable for the average Joe that's out there, that, Joe Six-Pack that, works and punches in and punches out. You can always come up with $100. If you don't have $100, then you got, other issues that, you just got to deal with. But I don't see that being, for phone consults, I don't think that's too much. And maybe slightly too little. But I know when I do consults, I charge $125 for 30 minutes worth of consult time, and then 1% of the total value. So that's different. But obviously, if it's a $10,000 issue in my world, then obviously that's going to take a lot more time. So I charge 1% of $10,000. And
but Lonnie, here's the thing, I've tried to think through this, and I don't know how it works, because I want to continue to do them, and I don't want to really.
Well, one thing you can tell your accountant, though, is your phone consults do fuel your coffee business, your supplement business, your book sales.
I've done all that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I like it when people sign up for the half an hour versus the hour. I tell everyone the best way to get the most benefit is to download my free PDF, read through it a couple of times, and then schedule a 30-minute consult. That's where you're going to.
Yeah.
Sometimes here's where an hour consult comes in handy. Sometimes a guy or a woman let's say a woman tells her husband, hey, I bought you this consult. I want you to listen to this guy. They've never heard of me. They don't know what NSNG is. They don't know what low-carb dieting is. They know none of it, right? And then that hour really comes in handy, right? As a matter of fact, I thought about moving the hour up to like $250 to discourage it, so that more people would just do the half an hour, because I can really get people moving in a half an hour. But there's some people who really do need the hour, and that's why I've kept it at that price. But at some point, maybe the first of the year, so I might move it up to like 210 or some number that might be a little more, that might send someone back to the 115,
right.
That kind of thing. Because some people look at it and go, wait, for $70 more or whatever it is, $80 more, I can just get this, and they schedule the hour. And then half an hour in, they're going, so tell me how big Anna's tits are, and what about Gina Grant?
Right.
So it's like, all right.
Yeah, at that point, they're not, they've checked out. They're ready to talk about other stuff. So yeah, half hour sounds like the right move for most people, unless they're getting into technical stuff, or you do a lot of ultra sports. So, those marathoners and Ironmen and stuff like that, they got a little more probably hand holding that's needed in an hour than a 30-minute consult. But
absolutely, Lonnie, you're 1,000% right. People who want to get, like they'll say, I've run my first marathon, now I want to move into my first ultra. That could take me an hour. Those take me.
Right.
The person who stalled out after losing 40 pounds doing an SNG and they still got 40, 50, 60 to lose, that's a half an hour call every time. I guarantee it. I can straighten them out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I guess the hour is worth it sometimes. But like I said, sometimes it's just someone, fanning out and they just want to talk about, so is Andy really cool off the air? Yeah, no, he's not. Next question. What's Adam Carolla like? Is Adam like he is on the air? When we start getting into the Adam Carolla questions too much, I'm like, didn't you really want to call Adam?
Right. So Vinnie, normally I ask my guests, an opportunity to ask me any kind of disaster. You know me well enough. I deal with water damage, mold, carpet cleaning, odor control issues, dead animals, and that sort of thing. Normally I ask people, just give me an off the cuff question, but you call me enough times that I you probably don't have any questions for me right now. Was my advice to you the other day, about 3 months ago, with your fluorine mold issue, was that helpful, or I never heard back? Was that helpful for you?
It was overly helpful. You see, we didn't really have a mold problem, but if Serena is so on top of that, she's like, I see, it looks kind of black. And both me and the guy that works for us, Alex, who comes in and helps me do work, we were both going, So she was like, I want that cleaned up. So I called you and you said, go out and get, was it a 30% solution, 20% solution?
40 volume. That's right. I couldn't even remember what I told you. 40 volume from Sally's Beauty Supply, and so I took care of it. Well,
we went over to a beauty supply place in Calabasas. Serena told me where I didn't like my eyes. I know where the hardware store is. I know where my gun shop is, and I know where the model airplane store is, because that's what catches my eye, right? I could tell you where the Ford dealership is because I want to look at trucks every time I pass. That's the way my eye catches things, right?
Sure.
I had to ask her, I said, Serena, is there something called a beauty supply? And she goes, oh, yeah, you go right into Calabasas, turn here, it's right next to, by the way, it's right next to where I buy dog food, and I had no idea. It's the next little door over, right?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, I come here like once a month, and I had no idea, And so me and Alex walk in, and of course these women are looking at an Italian and a Mexican going, are they here to hold us up? It's like, they've never seen this in Calabasas, right? It's like, these guys are not our customer. They are not looking for, 100% balsam in their, whatever they put in shampoo,
Right.
Yeah, I don't even know what goes in shampoo. I wash my hair with pine tar. So we walk in, and they're looking at us like, I think we're being robbed. Or
extorted.
Yeah, they don't know what's coming because Alex doesn't wear a jumpsuit that a guy that paints will wear. We both look like guys who could use a shave, and we got ratty.
You don't have your pink jeans with you, or a punk shell?
I wore my usual fare, just a white Hanes T-shirt and a pair of Levi 501s and a pair of boots. I mean, we don't look like what's walking around Calabasas. You expect to see one of Donald Trump's ex-wives, who would be there, or Kardashian or whatever. You don't expect to see me and Alex, pretty much. Yet
that's funny. Walking in a beauty supply.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, Alex is one of the few guys I hang around with. I hang around with the guy who comes to fix shit because I don't have any friends here. People go, wait a minute, you went to my Hollywood friends. They go, you went to Seattle? Why? It's like, oh, they had an NSNG meetup. How much did they pay you? Well, they didn't. Why?
It cost you money.
Yeah, it cost me a lot of money. Why did you go? It's like, because there are people there who like me. Why else would I go? I don't have friends. I'm hanging around with Alex, So Alex and I walk in, and they see us, and I said, hey, do you have peroxide? And the lady goes, yeah. Why do you need peroxide? I said, oh, I want to make this guy look like the Ken doll. And they didn't get that, So she goes, what kind of peroxide do you need? I said, I need a 40 weight. I'm using oil terms. You got the
40 weight, right.
And she goes, you mean 40 volume? I said, yeah, 40 weight, yeah. And she says, well, we go over and they got the 10 volume and I got the 20. And I said, geez, Lonnie said 40 volume, but they had 100% volume. And Alex finds it literally, when you go and you buy sulfuric or muriatic acid, they have it wrapped inside of another thing that's wrapped inside of another thing.
Yep.
A bag inside of a bag type of thing. Well, they have this stuff inside of another bag. Mm-hmm. And Alex picks that up and he goes, what do you think about this, boss? And I said, well, if 40 volume will work, this has got to really work. The one thing I should have gotten was gloves for Alex's hands because, man.
Oh, I forgot
now he has no
tell you that.
Yeah.
They turned white, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Alex is the whitest Mexican you've ever seen.
I forgot to tell you that part.
Yeah, we both turned white that day.
Mm-hmm.
We laughed.
So when you poured it on, when you poured it on, did it bubble at all?
A little bit, like in one little spot, but not really. So that means there was nothing, right?
Yep. Basically, that one little spot, that was it.
Yeah, so we got it. And now I got like a half a gallon of 40 weight, 100 weight, whatever, sitting in the thing. So Ruel, cool. If you need to make any of your kids' hair blonde over there, let me know. I can help you out.
Sounds good. Pureperoxide.com.
Yeah.
Sure, there you go. Start shipping it every month. Whether you need it or not.
New idea.
So, Vinnie, the premise, I don't know if you've even listened to any of Ruel and I's podcast, but the whole premise of my show is when guys see my wife, she doesn't understand what I do. She's like, I have more fun Monday through Friday than I do on the weekends. Weekends are my honeydews. I'm taking care of my own house. I'm working for free and, that sort of thing. But during the weekday, it's me and the electrician and the plumbers and other restoration guys and stuff like that. We're just sitting there, just busting balls, hanging out, just talking like guys do. You walk in on one of our conversations, you'd think we hated each other, but we're just having a blast. You know what I'm talking about? We're just talking like guys. So, but then after we kind of get in the lull of the day and we're doing our thing, we start talking, and service guys like me, blue collar service people, we always have crazy stories from, this customer, you won't believe what they wanted me to do. And they wanted me to put a HVAC trunk line in an 18-inch opening. And it's like, we can't do that. We just start talking talking stories, and that's kind of the premise of our business. So, of our podcast. So, out of all your facets, personal training days or whatever, what's been the biggest, craziest story that somebody's requested of you that they wanted you to perform that was either impossible or hard to attain, or some crazy story? What's your crazy story?
Well, mine, and I talked about these in the book, and there's been versions of this. People have often asked me about, hey, you're rolling around on the floor with these hot women in Hollywood. How often does that turn sexual? And the truth of the matter is, not very often. I was always very professional. But there were a couple of times, and I think I mentioned one or both of these in the book. There was one woman. The woman was absolutely just drop dead, stunning, gorgeous. Tall, blonde, and the whole deal. And
of course, you won't name names, will you?
Her husband was a famous agent, not director or producer, agent at one of the biggest agencies, right? And, he was a bit older and she was the younger wife. You see a lot of that in Hollywood and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And she, on her first training session with me, she came out and she had a robe on. She had like a long robe on. And all right, most people usually have like the yoga pants or whatever. And okay, she's got a robe on. She goes, hi, I'm going to go get ready in a second. I went, okay, can you show me where the gym is and the whole thing? And she goes, no, I wanted to talk to you before we get started just a bit more. We talked the other day on the phone and the whole thing. And I said, oh, okay. So she said, would you like some coffee? Would you like some? And I went, yeah, a cup of coffee would be fine. So, the lady who works in the house, she scampers off to make a cup of coffee. And the woman simply opens the robe up and drops it. And she only has on, like a pair of underwear, like very sexy La Perla style underwear. And no anything else on. And she's just standing there. And she goes, I just want everything to be on the table. This is what I look like. And she turns around. She shows me the back. And by the way, this woman is stunning. The body is perfect. She says, can you make this better? And I was thinking I don't know if you ever saw the show Cheers, but whenever a hot chick talks to Norm and Cliffy, they just go back.
Right.
Yeah. That happened to me. I didn't. It's like, does she want to have sex now, or is she coming on to me? By the way, I had a 5-year, 6-7 year relationship with this woman. She never came on to me. She never did anything else. This was day one. She took her clothes off, and we talked about it later on in our relationship when we became like old buddies and the whole thing. I said, yeah, that first day and the whole thing. And she goes, yeah, I think back on that. She goes, but you're a professional and you're used to looking at bodies and the whole thing. I'm like, I got to tell you, there was nothing professional going on in my pants that day because
no kidding.
You're only human, And I was like, well, is the maid coming back with that cappuccino, or what's going to happen? I don't know what's doing here.
Where's this going to go with?
Excited. So that, I know that sounds weird, but that happened. And like I said, I had a long relationship with her. The other woman, I also had a long relationship with, and we're still friends. By the way, I'm still friendly with both of these people. She asked me to, when these women used to get the breast jobs, or still do, I guess, I just don't train them anymore. When they get their breasts done, the doctor tells them that in order to not have the scar tissue build up, they need to gently massage them every day for months. And it's hard for someone to kind of massage their own breast. And to be honest, their husbands aren't really interested in it, right? It's like, look, I paid for it. You go figure this out. So in a couple of cases, but the one I wrote in the book was one of the most famous cases. Again, beautiful woman married to an agent or a manager or a producer. She was actually married to a producer. She was like, look, would you do this for 15 minutes at the beginning of every workout? And I was like,
for 15 minutes, she wanted you to rub her breasts for her?
Yeah, it's kind of like a technique, but you're sitting there playing with breasts for 15 minutes. Which, look, I'm only a red-blooded American male. I mean, I would have to sit there and think about, dead babies and nuns and baseball and, it was just weird. Luckily, she would lay down and close her eyes on a massage type table. And I would make it as medicinal as possible, never touching the nipples and trying to, and holding a conversation. It was just weird, I don't know how else to put it.
No kidding. I can honestly say I've never had that one happen in my day.
I'm sure people are sitting there going, yeah, cry me a river, dude. But, I mean, it's not like you get to then have sex. It's like you got to keep your mind off of that. It's weird.
Before there were iPhones and iPads to tap and swipe, Vinnie had breasts on a table.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the two stories I just told sound like the beginning of a porn thing where the pizza guy shows up, and. But neither one of these women, that first woman was somewhat conservative in her manner. She just wanted me to see what I was working with. I don't know what I was supposed to do with that information.
And where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's still in the spank bank. It's weird stuff, man. It really is.
Are you all there?
Awesome. So awesome.
Sorry, I just had a phone glitch. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. That's podcasting for you, folks.
That's just an indication that I'm about to die. But don't mind it.
Well, Vinnie, I could keep you on the phone forever. We don't get to talk like this very often. It's usually, needs based and that sort of thing. I don't ever publicize what I do for you behind the scenes and stuff, but it has been a pleasure having you on the show. And I couldn't imagine if one of my customers had dropped their robe for me. I do see a lot of people getting out of the showers. I will say that. And, I tell them at, Tuesday night, I'll be there at 9 a.m. And, I have all the systems and they know I'm coming. And then that's the moment that they get out of the shower. It's always kind of like, it's very weird because you're like, I'm here to, fix this problem, not here to fix that problem. So
yeah, there's been a lot of a bunch of those where it was unintentional. Like it's weird, people, especially it happened mostly on early morning clients where I would get to the house and one of the people that work in the house, because a lot of these people live in what I call these McMansions. They're $7,000, $8,000, 10,000 square foot homes, and they don't hear people coming in and someone else lets you in. And I would scamper off to the gym, and the gym might be adjacent to a bathroom or a bedroom where they come out of, they went to go to the bathroom naked, things that we all do. And then they walk past the gym and I'm in the gym and I see them and it's one of the, oh my God, I'm sure you get that all the time, but that's just embarrassing moments and things that you wish wouldn't happen because now you have this embarrassing moment, right?
Right. And it's hard. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was actually going out to clean some carpet for some dear friends of mine. I just wanted to do it for them. And so the husband's showing me around and he opens up the bedroom door, and these people are in their 80s, right? And I know them very well. And open the door, and wife is standing there naked, and we're all three of us are like, whoops. He just shuts the door. She she screams, and I'm like, oh, and I got to see them later. I got to see them next week and every week after. And it's like, yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen. It was just an honest mistake, and it is what it is. And there you go.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just embarrassing, and that's that. And so on and so forth. So that kind of thing happens. But those two cases where the people were like, yeah, here I am, and like I said, long-term clients, both of them, and love them to death. But that happened,
Yep, it does. When you go in people's homes, you never know what to expect. You're there to do one thing, and something embarrassing always seems to happen.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I'm getting to the part of my day where I actually have to switch gears from podcaster to being a dad.
Oh wow!
I do that.
What's that like?
I'm a very involved dad. I'm actually one that prides myself on being at the events and picking my girls up from school and that sort of thing. My schedule's so hectic that I put it on myself to pick them up from school every day and just to have 10 minutes of one-on-one daddy time. So it's something I cherish very, very dearly. I don't get to do it very often, or I don't get much one-on-one time with my daughters, but I tell all my customers that I wake up as a dad first and I go to bed as a dad, and everything else in between is just how I make a living. It's just how we do it. So.
And Lonnie, that's one of the reasons I love you, buddy, because the kids, it really does matter, So good on you for doing that.
And Vinny, are you, I guess you know that there's a New York meetup happening next month. Are you going to be at that one?
I will not. This movie is taking up any and all of my time. I've been trying to get to Louisiana. I've been trying to drive to Louisiana because I want to take my little FJ Cruiser off the road, so I'm going to leave it in Louisiana at my brother's shop. And I've actually bought a used truck that I'm going to drive back. But I bought a truck. I don't even have it yet. It's not even, I can't even find time to do that. And they keep going, hey, man, when you come get this truck? And I'm like, just hang on to it. I'm coming. But it never happens.
Doesn't your brother own a dealership?
He doesn't own a dealership. He's a manager. Actually, that's where I bought the truck from. I put him on notice about 6 months ago. I said, when a really nice either Dodge or Ford comes in there, just let me know. Because every now and then someone will buy a vehicle and then decide within a year, wait, this vehicle doesn't work for my life. And they basically take a big hit on a brand new vehicle. That's
right.
What you want that car. In this case, this dentist bought a F-150. He thought he was going to, get a boat and go boating more and the whole thing and pull it behind this truck. And after 9 or 10 months, he sold it. And so I'm getting pretty close to a brand new truck with low miles, and I'm not paying a big whopping amount of money for it. So that's how that happened. Now I got to find, I've got to find time to go get it, and because I want to get this FJ Cruiser off the road because it's becoming more and more valuable. So I want it to be, in the shop.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we're getting kind of close to the end here, but I haven't talked to Ruel about this, so Ruel, pay attention. I guess next week I will be the best man in my baby brother's wedding, and so we will not have a show next week. By the time this show airs, I will be in Seattle watching one of your couples that's met in your singles group, and watching them get married, and that's exciting. I'm so happy for them. I'm getting a new sister here pretty soon, so that's thrilling.
Yes, and Amber is a wonderful woman. I had them both on the show.
I heard.
I was invited to the wedding, and I can't go because I have a commitment that I have to get to. And I wish them well, and I hope to see them soon after that. But yeah, that's another great thing that's come out of all of this.
Yep. And there's other
That's awesome.
other couples meeting up too. So
No one's
Well, as far as the show, we'll just have to pull something out of the archives and republish it.
oh, we could do that.
And
Ruel, you and I can talk off the air about that.
Sure, yeah. Cool.
Hey guys, I have a phone call that's starting in about 4 minutes. So I'm gonna have to go. So I'm gonna have to, if you guys are gonna keep going with the show, but I'm gonna have to rock.
All right,
Thanks, Uncle Vinny.
Talk to you later, Vinny. We'll talk to you later, and go take the phone call. We'll wrap up without you.
All right, guys. You have a good day. Thanks for having me on, and please, please, please invite me back again.
Will do. You always have an open floor to push whatever you're needing to push.
I appreciate it. Lonnie, I'll call you later about that other stuff.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, later, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
So there goes Vinny. Uncle Vinny.
Uncle Vinny, that was a first.
What was the first? That we called him Uncle, or that we had him on?
well, both. And then we had our first guest, hang up the Zoom thing, and then it killed the whole thing. So it's just you and I closing this podcast up on our own without Vinny. So, folks, we had to redial and do our behind the scenes stuff here. So, I'm still laughing the way that all went down. All of a sudden we were talking and it says goodbye and we're click, no more. So
yeah, and the listeners will get to hear what that was like on the back end of the episode.
So why don't you close this out, Ruel? I'm horrible at it.
All right, guys. Well, that was another episode, guys, of the Service Guys podcast. I am, again, producer Ruel Abadam, and the guy that runs the show here is our service guy, Lonnie Beecham. We do want to also say goodbye on behalf of our esteemed guest, Vinnie Tortorich. We didn't talk about it, but, Vinnie Tortorich has a website. His name, minitour.com. You can go there and basically find out everything that he's connected to, his businesses, purevitaminclub.com, purecoffeeclub.com, his consulting that he does. You can access that form on his website. A lot of stuff, a lot of content, links to his podcasts.
And Vinny's website, if you don't know how to spell his name, is VinnieTorich.com. Sorry, I had to think about it for a second. I just have it programmed. But you can find all things Vinny at VinnieTortorich.com or just Google Vinnie Tortorich, and you'll find everything about Vinnie Tortorich there. So sorry, I interrupted you there, Ruel.
No, that's perfect. He owns the right, and he's the creator of NSNG, which stands for No Sugar, No Grains. And the listeners might not know that both Lonnie and I, we subscribe to that way of life, or that way of eating, or that lifestyle, however you want to call it. So that's one of the common things that Lonnie and I have going on. But yeah, it's another that's pretty much it. It's a wrap. The Service Guys podcast can be found on social. It's on Instagram. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook as @ServiceGuysPod. And like Lonnie has said many times in past episodes, we do want to beg for your rating and review on Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes. We want you to go in there, give us a favorable rating. We talk about 5 stars. That's the most favorable that you can give us. And we would appreciate your review as well. Whether or not you want to say that, Lonnie needs to stop using the word gotcha, or I need to step up and talk more, something. With that, again, this is another episode, guys, and I'm going to let Lonnie close out.
Folks, this is Lonnie Beecham with Restore Restoration. I want to let you know to get your life back to normal. Thank you.
restoration.
Hello? Who's here? Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Vinny. Is this Vinny?
I can't see you guys. Is there no?
Yeah, we're not doing audio or video.
All right. We'll close my little video window.
Yeah, I'm not that pretty. I'm not the model like you.
Exactly. You're not a professional like me, Lonnie.
Yeah, in fact, I think Ruel's going to be kind of like hiding in the background, but I haven't heard that this thing is being recorded. Did it tell you it's being recorded?
Me?
Hey, guys.
Hey, there you are, Ruel. Okay, cool. You still on kid duty?
I'm still on kid duty until the day I die, which will probably be in the next hour. But let's make the best of it, shall we?
Yeah, don't die until we hit end.
Yeah.
So are you going to be able to chime in at all, Ruel, or are you going to sit on mute like we talked?
I'll sit on mute. I'll chime in when I can, and we'll go from there.
Gotcha. I'm like you, Vinny. I'm not that technically savvy. Ruel pushes the buttons, and I just talk. So.
All right. Well, we just start talking.
All right. Let's rock and roll. Hey, Ruel, why don't you do the intro?
Cool. Hey, Lonnie.
So, Ruel. Yeah.
Hey, Lonnie.
So we're closing out the show together. Ruel. Hello. I don't hear nothing. Are you there?
Yep. Here I am. I had the thing recording, and I assumed that meant that I was also in the room, but I wasn't. And I realized, ooh, cool.
Gotcha. I didn't know what was going on. So
So
this is another Coffee with Heavy Cream production.